This stream is brought to you in part by HeTap. Alright. The passage of time continued, and a few cycles had passed since they were given the task of delivering a shipment of one of the resistance's delivering a shipment to one of the resistance bases on Nig Yellow. While Arcturus, yeah, I said that right, had been preparing everything he wished transported, the silent Hypo had further increased his knowledge of the common language, yet he knew that he will not succeed in his endeavor with just a fortnight, even longer than that. Still, this gave everyone the time to recover a bit from their wounds and lethargy. Even Hypo felt much better than ever before, endowed nourishment from more frequent hunts and the help of his allies. Eventually, they did get the notification they needed. Shipments are ready. You three prepared for the journey? Leyland had simply been resting all this time. He had never gotten back to full strength ever since arriving at this wasteland, and after having been beaten by a couple of military officers, he figured he should look after his health some more. Now then, everything was ready. They had some food, water, and the stuff they were supposed to take was ready. Always, always. How are we to carry the shipments? Hopefully it's not just boxes that we have to carry along the wasteland. Death Stranded. At best, it was all inside bags or maybe boxes with straps they could tie on their backs, and at worst, it was just boxes to carry. He's also an NPC. That's fine. Cordio was almost combat ready. He had not left but his fingers to grow. Oh, that's right. He is the one that is Deadpool in it. His smallest one, being his left pinky, was the only one remotely done being healed. I should be fine to go, he responds. Cordio stands up and prepares his suit, practically climbing inside of it. Shortly after, he grabs his space gun, pew pew, that shoots space lasers. I am not laughing at that. I'm laughing with that. It's my space gun that shoots space lasers. I love that. That's oh, that's great. It just reminds me of like the old like 80s and 90s toy guns that we used to all have because we're old. Rendo said it could get space. Oh, that's good. That's real good. That brought tears to my eyes, actually. Anyway, we're losing focus. With everyone prepared, so real quick, you guys can't see that. So we're going to take a brief pause here. And nope, don't want that. Hold on, because I feel like this will help you guys out. There, okay. Everything there? You can't see it. Fuck. And trust me, this will make sense when you see it. Okay, cool. So, Hypo, you are doing this. Hi, Odin. And I'm just gonna, so with everyone, right? And that is my autologger. So instead of doing that, what I would recommend is doing this. So you see how it kind of adds this stuff and it makes it separate. So it's not character action, it's character description, right? So if you just do the ANG to make it colorized and then go from there, you don't have to worry about it kind of flowing together. Because on this, it's a little weird. And I'm not saying like it, I don't know, it's just weird. All right? Because it just reads weird because it's character and then action. Leyland does it, right? So they have Leyland and then we see this. And why is this OOC? That's weird. But like here, like Leyland nods, they picked up, and then yours is there. So just, yeah, I would just do the ANG before it. So it kind of separates it. It's a minor thing. You can do it, you cannot do it. If you don't want to do it, and just give me the middle finger, I accept. Anyway, with everyone prepared, the gang had their final challenge ahead of them. Arcturus spoke. Right then, you know the place, and here are the boxes. Before them were 3 massive boxes, but all 3 different in size. Each was slightly bigger than the recipient, and all had straps in to carry like backpacks. He made sure it was comfortable for them during the journey. He'd rather they have their hands free if they run into any problems. For Hypo, Arcturus pointed out the one he wished him to carry. The lizard hoisted it up over his back and was ready. Aww. So is Hypothermus really kind of leaning into like the ice lizard alien kind of thing? And that's why like he can't speak. That's cool if he is. Very Cade-like. OG Cade. Leyland nodded and seeing the boxes. Good enough. He didn't care about which one he was supposed to carry, so we just picked him up after Hypothermus got his. With a box for a backpack, he picked out the map and decided the direction they should go. I got directions. We're good to go. Right? I'm just gonna keep changing the voices. Cordio picked up the last box, and it was heavy for him. He can manage, but having the cart around in a suit and now a box wasn't easy, but he could pull through. Arcturus was kind to me enough, so it's the least I can do for him, and you two as well, even if Hypo can't understand me. Cordy also had to carry a box with pretty much one hand since he was still able to do it. Let's move out, he says as he starts walking, slowly of course. And then the long journey had begun. With Leyland leading with his map, there was absolutely no way that they could get lost en route. This was going to be their final mission before the blacksmith was willing to start forging things for them that they needed. Who knows if they'll need one thing or multiple things. They'll have to hash out the details once they've come back from their quest. Here's the problem, though. The longer they spent traveling, the harsher the weather had become. In fact, blizzards had become so powerful that even Hypo felt it was a struggle to even take a single step. The strength of the storm is unprecedented. Just what is causing this? Okay. Leyland hummed thoughtfully and without another word left the cave. It was going to be a long journey, give or take between a week or 2, maybe a little less. It would all depend on the wasteland's mood and how much snow would drop on them, not to mention beasts. There was also a possibility of coming across military officers, which was always a worry due to the fact that they were going to a rebel base and had this been normal circumstances, he wouldn't have worried about it. And Cordio chugged along, humming some old Namekian tune he heard as a child. Trekking through the snow and bad weather was both tough and boring, so he needed some way to entertain himself. Oi, Leyland, you don't look like the other lizards. No offense to Hypo. Where are you from? he asked the demons, stopping his tune for a mere moment. So I'm going to pause right here. That's a very touching moment, and it is disjointed because I see what Hypo is going for. Hypo is going like, okay, so they're walking, and blizzard. The other two kind of don't react to the blizzard, but I feel like they are in character. It just, I wish somebody would have like noticed it a little bit more, right? So I see what you're doing, but I really love Cordio just being like, hey, you don't look like the other people. Where are you from? Right? Like, you're not a changeling. And we go out of turn. Beautiful. So I was also going to say this, like, Hypo, if they are having this conversation, yeah, just let them go. If the only thing your character is really doing here is just kind of doing the setting, doing the DMing, yeah, let these guys go. So I love that you let Leyland go out of order. Leyland focused solely on what was ahead. By this point, he wasn't quite used to having talking company, so most of the time he could just be lost in his thoughts whenever going for these long walks. At times, he wouldn't even count his steps even after they had crossed the thousands. Where I'm from, how to best describe that nightmarish place? In a way, it's not so different from this wasteland. The earth is scorched. Everywhere you look, ashes are falling due to constant fires, both from pits that were never put out and ones that were a result of battles. Not long, he tried to remember what else there was. It's a place where one needs to constantly fight or run away to survive. It is simply the way of the demon clans, and never has one clan managed to maintain superiority for long enough to build something like a city, at least not as far as I have seen. Interjection. There are demonic cities. They're just not very nice places. The storms grew stronger. It was becoming hard to talk even. Hypo was telling these two to shut the hell up and focus on the storm. Hypo could barely see, and eventually he bumped into a large ice wall. That's the only way to describe it, because as he was trying to get around, he noticed that it was extending further and further, and then even further. Is there an end to this wall? What is this ice? He couldn't even make a shape out of it. He'd walked for a long while before he even noticed that it was starting to form an incline. Is this a sphere? Perhaps a dome? How odd. It'll take a while to get around this, but he never imagined such a thing. Cordio nodded at Leyland as best he could. I don't know much about demons. I heard rumors all the time in my village back home, though. Passing rumors of legend, typically. I'm sure we're both better off here than back at home at the very least. He says, trying to relate to the Cyclops. Oh, Leyland's a Cyclops. Did not know that. He could see slightly better than Hypo to his suit protecting him from most of the weather, but he stops when Hypo stops. I could try shooting through the ice from here, but it might take a while. I also don't want to risk breaking my gun, but we could try, he said towards Leyland's direction. He felt like maybe he could talk too much, but right now they had very literal obstacle in their way. Leyland wishes he had some thicker clothes for when they were going through these hailstorms. Sometimes it felt like the weather was trying to stab him with the snow. He's sure that if it was any other cold, it would be icicles trying to pierce him. Thankfully, he hasn't come across that terrible of weather yet. I'm better off here. If I wasn't, I would already be dead. And then they came across the large ice wall. Placing a hand on its surface, he tried to look around it, concluding the conclusion that it was almost impossible to climb it. While it wasn't perfect, its surface was too smooth, and even if they could dig their claws into the ice to climb, eventually as the storms got worse, they would get higher up, and they may very well be thrown off to their deaths. Another time, then. Leyland followed after Hypo as he went around the dome. We'll have to come around to this place in the future. It's rather curious. He then focuses back on talking with Cordio. No point in shooting through the ice. If it takes time, it would not be worth doing, especially if we can't guarantee how long it would take. Best to keep moving from here before we're buried in the snow. A few hours later, they had crossed around the ice dome. Yes, it was that large. The indication of size proves that it was unlikely that Cardio's plan would have worked. Had they tried, they probably would have still been carving away even at the first layer of the frozen dome. Leyland is right, however. Such a massive building of ice would have prompted their return at some point. Why would it exist here for no reason? Surely there's something behind its existence. Either way, the three of them continued on their journey, passing the halfway point to the base after a few days of travel. So, as the reader, I'm very curious if there was something that we planned. Oh, Jesus, there's a lot to this log. All right. I'll have to pick up the pace here. There is a lot that I'm curious about this dome. I have questions about this dome. As they traversed, Cordio fell through the ground, straight through what was essentially a snow pit. This was near where they stopped, of course, but he was 5 feet deep into the snow, his head sticking out within his suit. This comedic turn of events was in turn not comedic to the Mechian. I seem to be stuck. Sorry. Cordio is hilarious. He doesn't mean to be. He's like deadpan. He's like Tommy Lee Jones, right? He is hilarious. And the player just having these ideas of like, yeah, we're walking in the snow, and then I get stuck. Leyland would remember the location of this ice dome and even marked it on his map for future reference. It looked like an interesting place after all, and exploration was a good way to stave off boredom in this wasteland. As they went ahead, the Cyclops realized that they were going around with these boxes was harder than he first imagined. Their feet would sink deeper into the snow. It made them heavier, and in turn, all of this new effort forced them to spend more energy. It was even successfully sank Cordio into a snow pit. Hypothermos, he called to his lizard buddy before placing his box on the ground, walking towards Cordio. Cordio offering a hand to help him up. The first door-stuck moment in this universe. Hypo gives out a hearty laugh for the first time in his life as he approached to help Cordio. He found it amusing that there was so much snow that the Mechian got stuck in. Offering a hand from the opposite side of Leyland, he'd help by lifting him up by his armpit. Once he's unstuck, he'd lead the way further. What else awaits them in the wasteland? They'll have to see. It definitely is the highest amount of snow he has gone through, though. Cordio grabbed onto Leyland's hand with his right arm and really just had to be grabbed by his left arm. There we go. It was almost ready, though, because his left arm is still regenerating. He repositions his box on his back after being freed. Talk about something I never experienced back home, eh? He continues walking, chuckling along with Hypo. It was quite funny, despite the world trying to do everything it can to stop them. Okay. Oh, Misho finally shows up. Okay. So Misho donned the grassy green smart suit as he made his way to the exit of the gates of Pressure Dome 01. The harsh landscape and lethal climate would prove to be a perfect testing grounds for air filtration, heat regulation, and other automated vital procedures. In hindsight, a horrible idea if anything happened to fail. Hours of aimless exploration and the occasional system checks pass before eventual realization. This thing was made for combat. Why didn't I just go to an arena? Or his excitement had gotten the better of him. The vital systems seemed to be stable, sure, but he didn't even know where he was. For the first time on his voyage to nowhere, he paused, taking a moment to scan his surroundings. A giant dome of ice just inches from his face, stretching almost as far as he could see in each direction. He places a gloved hand on its surface, and he walks the perimeter, looking for an opening. Instead of an opening, he finds a Cyclops and a lizard helping a Namekian out of the snow. They seemed like they knew where they were headed, so he decided to approach. Okay, so Bob, a Cyclops, a lizard, and a Namekian are in the snow. No, I'm just kidding. Need any help with those? He called ahead, pointing to one of the boxes. And they increase his RP energy by 100, which is like the same as cocking a gun back. What the? Yet another figure approaches them. One clearly plain in looks, but putting aside the suit he was wearing, that is. How odd it seems, so technologically advanced compared to where he can see the one he can see the Namekian wearing. Although he had offered to help, Hypo had already helped Cordio out of the snow alongside Leyland. He'll let the other two do the talking, though. He could sense that this figure meant no harm to them, so he did not bother preparing himself for combat. Okay. Senses could be wrong, who knows? Maybe it throws a punch at your space lizard junk, who knows? Leyland was a little amused by the Namekian stuck in the snow, and once he was pulled out of it, he went back to pick his box up. Then someone approached them. The Cyclops feels chills down his spine, a simple moment where he had lowered his guard, and someone managed to get this close to them. Seems his senses were getting dull, and at least they did not appear to be hostile. As far as the boxes go, we're fine. Aren't you the one who needs help with something? The Cyclops never thought someone would approach them in the wasteland, mostly because there wasn't anyone, and the most intelligent beings out here are like savages, such as the exiles most of the time. Did this one need something? Cordio started getting the snow residue off of him. He wasn't perfect at it, given his current state, but he was doing well enough. He stares at the human who just appeared out of pretty much nowhere. Aye, we're fine. Feel free to follow us if you wish, if you're lost. We're going somewhere that probably has people, he says to the lone wanderer, admitting that they would have loved for the human to take the box off his hands, but he wasn't that pathetic. Smisho put out a sigh and revealed that the group wasn't hostile, and was relieved that the group wasn't hostile, but a little embarrassed by the responses. Yeah, I'm lost. He took their offer to tag along, though. Probably finding people was a lot better than probably dying. Some more time, more cycles. Every night felt longer than the last. Every effort spent reaching their sought-after base drained them even more. The eternity of this journey had finally come to an end. Leyland's map would blip several times. The sound carried Hypo's interest, and he watched to see what this device was doing. It would appear that they're on top of their marked location, but not only do these plains seem empty, but there's nobody in sight. The blizzard's relentless strength had blocked sight of anything further than 5 feet, but they could hear nothing but themselves. The lizard stopped, checking the ground covered in thick snow. Nothing appeared to indicate that they had reached their destination, and only served further to add to the confusion. Was their endeavor for naught? Could he only hope it wasn't the case? Or he could only hope it was. Yeah, right, that. Cordio set the box down. If we're here, we can wait for someone and then head back. It doesn't look like there's much here, though, he says. He looked over to the human. Such another strange creature, yet somehow more normal than the others. He does not make any statements about it, but he was curious about the nature of said human. Regardless, he looks onward, keeping his hand on the box, now on the ground. He didn't want to lose it. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if it kind of makes sense for you guys to be, walking, resting, camping, and also getting back more RP energy. I mean, RP energy is just kind of like how refreshed and ready you guys are should battle pop off, right? So Leyland curiously tapped on his map when suddenly it started beeping. They got to their destination, yet there was nothing. Well, maybe they were just tricked. Unfortunate. The map indicates that we have arrived at our destination, yet I see nothing. Had the rebel... excuse me. Had the rebels been simply testing them, or could they... about to be ambushed? Maybe they had even set out on a wild goose chase. But that had been the but had that been the case, Arcturus would have warned them. Not like we have any other option. We either wait and risk seeing what comes our way, or go back and waste the trip. They increased their RP energy by 10. Smisho trailed along silently, mostly observing this unfamiliar group of whatever they were. Worry grew as days passed without so much as another living being, just blizzard and barren wasteland. He began to suspect that they were just as lost as he was. Even when a supposed destination was reached, then there was nothing to be found. This is the spot? What do you mean? Doesn't look like there's much. There's nothing. What are we even here for? All of a sudden, predatory instincts kicked in. Hypo's nose picked something up in the wasteland full of odorless snow. He straightens himself up after having investigated the ground with his slouched over hunch. Hypo faces the direction they came from, his expression carrying a certain level of sternness. Should the group look that way, they would find that the thick blizzard begins to dissipate. First, 3 silhouettes form, but then they could clearly see what was before them. Cloaked figures carrying bronze sigils and imperial colors. Oh, fuck. This did not bode well for them. Was this a trap by Polis? Hypo wasted no time in putting aside the box he was carrying. Took you long enough to notice us, speaks the one in the center. The one on the left had more to add. Might that be contraband you're carrying? Don't be afraid to tell us. And the last one? He simply chuckles after the second's comment, but he does not join the conversation. What do these ominous figures want? Is it likely the first thought that it's likely the first thought that got all right, Nickmas, have a good one, man. Be sure to catch the VOD and the YouTube after I put this up, probably tomorrow or the day after. All right, we're going to try this last one again. What do these ominous figures want? It is likely the first thought that struck everyone's mind. Hey, there we go. Cordio looks in the same direction as Hypo. So it's come to this, huh? He asked, trying not to get an answer. Cordio had thought about what he would do if he had to fight somebody. This was well before he left Namek, but he knew he could not hesitate here. He wasn't a fighter, but he had something he could use instead. He lets go of the box that he had kept his hand on and aimed his pistol at one of the soldiers. He'd have beads of sweat rolling down him if it wasn't so damn cold. He knew he couldn't hesitate, but there was a slight bit of it here. He was about to shoot someone. Could he go through with it? The answer was a definite, resounding yes. He pressed the trigger as the energy bolt released from the gun. Cordio was trying to get the first strike here. Round 1. Fight. Yeah, so if I'm going to be perfectly honest, when it comes to NPC combat, you can use dice if you want to. I particularly don't. I really, and this is just a me thing, I only use dice when I feel like it needs to be done, right? If I were fighting another player, I would always be like, hey, can I get a hit in here? Just kind of ask, because I would also shape my post either with a hit or a miss. A lot of the times, I mean, if you guys ever fight one of my characters, they take a fucking beating. Some people are like, Riz, your character is just trying to get their ass beat. But you don't always have to use dice. Dice are just there. Dice are literally there for when people have arguments and they're like, yeah, my command man beats your Gallic gun. Yeah, my Gallic gun beats your command man. Fuck it. Shut up. Roll dice, you nerds. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's completely up to you. There's no rule behind dice, unless it's, requested from an admin or anything like that. So, anyway, Leyland placed his box down on the ground as he answered Misho. We are here to meet a group of people. They're the ones we're supposed to give these boxes to. They said they needed fighters in the past, so I do not think of this offer as trickery. Even more so when considering their enemy was the Empire, as he sees they had all the help they could get. Then Leyland focused on Hypo, and all of a sudden he noticed their reaction. So much for hoping to stay out of trouble. Something was coming. So the Cyclops prepared himself, stretching a little bit, and then standing at attention as finally they were approached by 3 individuals. Shaking his head, Leyland sighed and answered the Imperial. Doesn't matter what's inside these boxes. No matter what you say, no matter what we say, you will still try to see for yourself, only to end up dead before you can confirm it for yourself. He hoped that if anyone else was about to try something, he could distract the Imperials for long enough for it to work. And then came the blast from Cordio's gun, prompting the Cyclops to charge ahead, not aiming for anyone in specific, but instead to kick up snow in their faces and allow Hypothermus to close in on them and maybe allow Cordio to get another shot. Okay. So it's like, pew, I'm going to go up, the snow and dust and all in your face. I can't see. And then maybe another pew, and then let the lizard do its thing. Oh, let the lizard out. Anyway. Misha was still in the middle of forming another complaint when the other group approaches. A new voice catches his attention, but contrary to his statement, he didn't notice them at all. The mention of contraband connects some dots, and after a quick glance between the boxes, then to Cordio, it all came together. Oh, that's what we're doing. Finally, His right hand taps the panel on his left wrist and setting the suit to record. Miso strikes a sentai pose as Cordio fires. And then dashes forward to strike the same target as the follow-up fist. Yeah, it's time to suit up. Sorry. It's the Yingling. It becomes quickly apparent that they were not dealing with regular thugs from GT Melron. A bright light flashes before their eyes, before they even began combat. A shallow aura emanating from each of the three combatants. That's good. You guys switched it up. That's good. That's hopeful. That makes it good. Sorry, where was I at? We've been tracking your Iserian friends for a while. Ever since he stepped foot in GT Melron. In fact, it's come to our attention that the exile is perhaps useful to the Empire after all. We'll be forcing him back into the military service now that recent data we've collected shows he's worth a fight over. Yeah, you best come with me, bitch. The individual in the center wasted no time, moving like a juggernaut as the blast came from Cordio's weapon. His arm intercepts, protecting his body from taking the brunt of the damage. But by the swiftness of his arm movements, it's clear he had made an attempt to deflect the blast, but failed. The arm wasn't injured enough to be out of commission, proving that the aura wasn't just a bluff. Misho's advance was noticed. The Iserian cadet took measures to duck under his straight strike. Finally, a blow that would put the scientist's armor to the test was cocked back and launched with frightening precision as a linear uppercut to the chin. In the meanwhile, Hypo chose the individual on the right. His recent language studies helped him semi-understand what was the topic of conversation. He discerned some of the words, but among those sentences were words that were seldom used. Thus, he couldn't fully grasp why they wanted him, just that he was their target. The situation demands moves that have a higher skill requirement, but the thick snow makes it hard to use an afterimage attack. Hypo will just have to opt for more regular forms of fighting. So the lizard closes the distance and put most of his own weight on the left leg, spinning around as if it were an axis, trying to kick the cadet in the side with his heel. So I'm going to kind of like just read over these quietly and just kind of describe it. I mean, you guys know what's going on, but I mean, it's combat, right? And unless something spectacular happens, I mean, you guys start fighting. We know what happens. Okay, so yeah, he's kind of like, okay. So there's like fists and elbows flying. But again, I do really, really like that you guys were like, okay, I'm going to NPC your enemy, you're going to NPC my... I like that you guys did that. You guys work really well as a team, and I have to assume that Hypo and Leyland have been role-playing together for a very long time in a similar format. And that Cordio and Misho also kind of just went along with it. There's no conflicting styles here. You all are working very coherently and cohesively together, so that makes this much easier to read. So Misho misses, gets counter hit, gets okay. And it looks like Misho's timing's going off with Cardio's blasts. Which would be interesting, like just looking at this from like mind's eye point of view. So we got a 3v3 here, right? Wait, is it a 3v3? Yeah, it's a 3v3. Sorry. No, it's a 4v3. Yeah, it is a 4v3. Yeah. So a 4v3, you have obviously one person is taking on the two of you, but what would be interesting is if you have these four and these three, but instead of it being kind of like 1-to-1 and then like this person's taking on these last two, everybody's switching, right? It would be almost impossible to be that synchronized, especially since you guys have never fought together. Misho just kind of shows up, it's like, hey, you lost in the snow too? I'm gonna follow you guys. But just in my mind's eye, like basically how Misho is going off of Cordio's gun blast. If it was like, okay, you shoot this person, I'm gonna go here, right? Just yeah, and that's why like it doesn't matter, right? But you are right. If one person were NPCing all the baddies and everybody else can like switch it up, yeah. So this is actually worth reading. What Hypo had was physical prowess gained through countless years spent surviving in the harshest land in the universe. However, even his tempered body struggled against an opponent that possessed greater martial discipline and knowledge of combat. In all honesty, Hypo was inexperienced. All of his strikes lacked the precision of a martial artist. He fights not like a master of his craft, but as a prodigious figure that uses his physical ability to his advantage to make up for his lack of experience. Thus, the whip of the tail that struck a solid blow against the lizard, making him skid backwards from the force of it. A pile of snow forms behind Hypothermus, indicating that his adversary does not lack in strength either. Blood comes from the inside of the silent reptile's mouth. An oddity occurs as he speaks. Fight. Fun. Finally, a challenge he's been waiting for. Not a beast, not a thug, but someone who could truly threaten his life even when he's feeling better than ever before. This is good for Hypo. Being pushed back and thus pushing all the snow that was between the two in a direct line, it means he can use his more than basic move. Swiftly, the reptilian disappears from sight temporarily, zipping across as he makes an effort to use the momentum to throw a punch, throw a powerful fist, at the cadet's right cheek. So that was very interesting, right? Like Hypo acknowledges, and the writer acknowledges, like, hey, like he is just a rampaging beast, and this is someone who is not just throwing strength around. This is somebody who's punching me in the vitals and is hurting me while looking like they're not even trying. Well, Cordio got a 20 on that. That's nice. I mean, he says this one's for the history books, and then he rolls a 20. And then another 20 is rolled. Wow, he decreased it by 17 here. Wait, what? Huh. And that's the bathroom. Yeah, that just seemed like normally if you're going to decrease from taking damage, like 17 damage is a wallop, right? Like think about in like mud terms, that don't tickle. And if you're using 17 RP energy for offense, you're putting in quite a bit. Like that's half of a transfer. Is that half a transformation? No, that's quarter of a transformation. But still, like you're putting in a good chunk. So, yeah. Yeah, so he did do it for damage. Yeah, so I mean 17 is a lot for damage. And you're getting used to the RP energy system too. Honestly, 2 years later, everybody is, right? Like RP energy is offensive energy and how much you're getting hurt too. So yeah, it's a little much. Pulls a knife. Energy blast. Full Nelson. What's it? What? All right, somebody explain to me I mean, I get it, but all right, Totem Warrior, rise from the grave. Yeah. I mean, it's cool to see some. So this is actually the second person to use a totem school, and yeah, that's interesting. It wasn't a sarcastic what. It was like, whoa, shit, what? Somebody using a totem? Okay. Man, we really need to finish the other one, but that took about an hour. So this log, it's not done, right? I am going to reward you guys for this. Part one has some good stuff in it. It doesn't pick up until the end where the fight really happened, and it really just is like we have a destination, we're on the destination, and we get there and there's the ambush, right? Like I kind of said while I was reading it, it had cute moments to where like Cordio wants to spark up a conversation with Leyland. Leyland actually acknowledges that like, man, I'm not used to somebody actually talking to me while we're doing this and while we're on these walks, right? I'm not used to there being a person here. So that's dope. I think like the combat was obviously where it picked up, and I probably should have read it, but it's combat, right? He did a punch, got a blast, Zanzuken. I think my favorite part though is the part where I said earlier that Hypo was like, oh shit, like this dude knows what he's doing. And you guys are playing tier 0 very well. What is Leland at? Let's see here. RP finger. So yeah, Leyland's coming up on tier 1. So that they're showing like little sparks of ascended power. Hypo's a little behind. Damn, y'all got some lengthy bios, bro. And this is Cordio's first one. And this is Misho's first one. Okay, so yeah, this makes sense as why Leyland's starting to like kind of maybe brush on the surface of Ascension. Because it's always like the best way to think of tier 0 is like, you know, you're the peak of human evolution, and you may have like a fireball, right? Like you're Ryu and Ken from Street Fighter. You can't teleport. You're really fast, and you'll probably mop up anybody who's not ascended. You have ki, and you can maybe throw a fireball, but you're not toppling buildings yet. But don't worry, it gets pretty ridiculous once you start hitting like tier 1 and 2. Because it's fucking Dragon Ball Z. So yeah, this was a good log. Oh, so he has a small one? Okay. I really wish, I mean, it's 11 o'clock and my voice is almost shot, so I would really love to read through this and finish it. I will finish the log. I'll just do it off stream and kind of smoosh it all together, give one big reward for this, because it's technically one log. But yeah, I mean, you guys did good. It was my first introduction to these characters. Like I said, I would really recommend doing like the Angie and use the little G, so it's the same green for when you're NPCing, and then when you're actually doing actions for Hypo, then you can use the asterisk. But yeah, I mean, you guys did good. This is my first introduction to these characters. I don't feel like I'm any further behind or anything like that. Nobody really questioning Misho just kind of showing up is what we would really consider writer's will, right? Because realistically, if you're out walking in the desert or in a barren wasteland, like nobody, that would never happen. But writer's will, you want to come with us? Come on, we trust you, random stranger. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I'm going to wrap things up, go get something to eat. I literally came home from working 12 hours, set up the stream, and started doing it. So I'm going to go kiss my wife before she divorces me and get something to eat and let my voice rest for a little bit. So I will finish this up, and I'll see you guys on Tim Mudd. Don't forget to hit quit and stop being a disconnecting slut.